1 Kings chapter 3. This section shows Solomon's wisdom through a court case that he had. Verse 16. Now 2 prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One said to him, "My lord, this woman and I live in the same house. I had a baby while she was there with me. The 3rd day after my baby was born, this woman also had a baby. We were alone, and there was no one in the house but the 2 of us. During the night, this woman's son died because she lay on him. So she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while your servant was asleep. She put him by her breast and put her dead son by my breast. The next morning I got up to nurse my son, and he was dead. But then I looked at him closely in the morning light, and I saw that it wasn't my son that I was carrying." The other woman said, "No, the living son is mine, and the dead one is yours." The first woman again insisted, "No, the dead one is yours, and the living one is mine." So they argued back and forth between the king. So King Solomon said, "This one says my son is alive and your son is dead, while the other one says, no, my son, your son is dead, and mine is the one that's alive." Then the king said, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword to the king. He then gave the order, "Cut the living child in 2 and give 1/2 to each of them." The woman whose son was really alive was filled with compassion for her son and said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." But the other said, "Neither I nor you should have him. Cut him in 2. Then the king gave his ruling. "Give the living child to the first woman. Do not kill him, for she is his mother." When all Israel heard the verdict the king had given, they held the king in awe, because they saw that he had wisdom from God to administer justice. Okay, let's look at some of this. Probably won't be very long, but a couple of things. First off, this actually shows Solomon's humility and his willingness to govern all his people, regardless if they were great or weak, regardless of how powerful they were or how rich they were. And the reason I say this is because these are 2 prostitutes. Back then, prostitutes were about as low as you could get in the social order. They were not wealthy, because usually the people that would go into prostitutes at this time were women whose husbands had died young, or someone who was a slave and was sold into it. So these were the type of people that were prostitutes. They wasn't done by choice. It was the last ditch, profession for many people back then. So these were the poorest of the poor. They were, they're just trying to survive, and this is how they did it. So socially very low, mostly. Now sometimes there are exceptions to this, but generally around this time, socially they were at the lowest you could get and very poor. You can tell that also because several of them seem to be living together. Now, the next thing you can see is they are allowed to come and talk to the king. Now, even in modern times, it would be very rare for a ruler of a country to be willing to allow, a prostitute or someone of that level to come in and hold a discussion or hold a case right in front of him, because they have courts, right? But here is the king dealing with this himself. So it shows his humility. It shows how much he cares for his people, that he's willing to listen to, petitions and things from even the lowest people in his kingdom. And, it shows the freedom that he's allowing. So it really shows Solomon in a good light, even from, even before we hear the court case, just seeing that he allows them to come and hold this and talk to him about it. It shows that he's being a good person. He's being a good ruler in that sense. And remember, all the time he's also got to run the entire country. Okay, so then we get into this. The lady says, they're staying in the same house, and I had a baby, and then she had a baby. And during the night, she lay on the baby. Now, this does not mean that she tried to kill him on purpose or anything like that. This obviously was a mistake. that she rolled over on him or something like that, and the baby dies. So then what does she do? Well, she steals it and switches the babies. Now, it might be odd to us who live in the 21st century, right, to look at this and think, why did she not recognize that was not her son right away? Well, there's a reason for it. Now, back then we didn't have lights, there weren't lights everywhere. So the best time that they could get light is when the morning sun came. So until the morning sun came, she did not realize that this was her son. The morning light comes, and then she's able to look clearly and see, wait, this is not my son. That is when she finally understands that the living son is hers and the one she's holding is the dead one. That is not her child. And then we have this issue and they go to see the king. So this is all, it also shows the speed of King Solomon's justice, right? This is happening, and almost right away they're able to see the king. And then the king makes this decision, and because he points out that it's just hearsay, and it's just one person, what one person says against another. It's just one person says it's mine, the other one says it's mine. So you can't really decide between the two. You have to pick which one to listen to. So what does he do? He comes up with this. He knows that the real mother will have compassion. And even though nowadays this is very common, we think of this, we have to realize that this is the first time anyone has ever done anything like this. He is showing inventiveness. He is showing wisdom. He is showing that he understands how humans think on a very deep level. And this is not something he just picked up because he's not that old, But this is a gift from God, the ability to understand what people are thinking and how people react or will react to something. We're going to see that even later with King Solomon, but here we see this. So what does he do? He says, bring a sword, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut this kid in two, and you can have a piece, and then you can have this. Obviously killing the child. Whereas the real mother, even though she loves the child deeply, she would much rather she does not have the child, but the child continue to live and thrive than for the child to be killed. So yes, the baby boy, and we know it's a boy because of the pronoun used and the markers used. So anyway, so the boy is given to the original mother, and surprisingly enough, we don't know what happens to the other lady. He just gives the child to the original mother, and it looks like he doesn't punish the other lady, which again is interesting. But we see from this how smart he is, how wise he is, how well he understands people. And even the people in his kingdom realize how great a king they have. I'm going to stop there, and we'll pick up tomorrow.